welcome. Today I'll just be running through a quick introduction to guitar, from beginner basics to a few more advanced topics. There's also a PDF that you can download that contains this presentation, so no need to take any notes. The presentation can be found at meeshproductions.com/PDF. There'll be a link in the description of this video once it's live. And this presentation will take about 30 minutes or so. I'll be taking questions at the end of the stream. So any comments that you make during the stream I may not see, I may not be able to acknowledge, but also if you want to see this in full screen rather, I am streaming to YT, and there's a full screen version of this happening at the same time there. Welcome in. My name is Dan. Welcome to Meesh Guitar. Today we're going to be running through a few basic topics relating to guitar. No prior knowledge of guitar is required, but if you already do know some of the basics, this may benefit you as well, as I'm going to cover a few things that you may not be doing currently. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to let the guitar music stop here. That way we can just focus on the slide deck here that I prepared. I have done a couple other iterations of this. This is an evolving slide presentation, and I am working on a free guitar course that will be formally available online. But I want to test run some of these presentations to see what resonates best, get some feedback from people. So if you do have any comments or feedback, please leave it in the comments section, and I will make sure that I read all of your comments when I'm done here. And for the sake of being able to see this presentation a little bit more easily, I'm going to just drag my head down here, kind of out of the way here. And let me just jump forward to what we're going to try to cover today. Some of the topics, just basic stuff, naming parts of the guitar, strings, frets, and tuning, how to read a chord chart, your first 5 open chords, your first 3 scales, and how to read tablature. Picking and strumming techniques, both with your fingers and pick. We're not going to go very deep on any of these topics. This is kind of a high-level overview, but it's more than enough to get you started in playing for at least, this would keep you busy for at least a month, I would say, if you just have never played a guitar before. Probably more than that. Maybe even six months in, you could still be, working on this. So there's going to be a lot of information presented here pretty quickly. And like I said, if you have any questions, I'll take questions at the end, and let's just dive into it. All right, parts of the guitar. You've all seen this diagram. It's at the beginning of almost every beginner guitar book. And very quickly, we'll run down the major parts here. We've got the headstock, the neck, the body, the bridge. Those are the parts that are in common with both guitars. Obviously, you don't really need to know much other than how to tune, where the tuners are, and how to restring, which that's a whole nother topic. So we're not going to get into how to restring the guitar in this video. Just a high-level overview of what the parts are called, how to tune the guitar in your first 5 chords, as well as your first few scales, and how to set yourself up for success in practice. All right, let's jump ahead. We don't need to spend too much time here. And again, if you want to review any of this presentation, it is available on my website, meeshproductions.com/PDF. How to hold the guitar. The easiest way, especially in the beginning, is to hold the guitar so the neck is up at about a 45-degree angle from your body. This allows your wrist to come around the guitar much more easily. The lower the neck goes, the harder it is to get your wrist to go around the neck in a way that allows you to properly fret chords. If the guitar is too low, you'll find that you're often muting strings that you don't want to mute. And it also fatigues your wrist if you are playing with your neck too low. So in the beginning, especially, or if you're working on something especially challenging, I know that I do this as well. If I'm working on something that's really technical, I'll often find that I'm like huddling the guitar close to my body, because that's the easiest position to reach everything in. It's also can lead to some injuries if you don't hold the guitar properly and you have bad posture. You can get issues with your wrists, your neck, your shoulders, all kinds of things can go wrong. How to hold a pick. Again, not going to spend much time on this, but you want to hold the pick with your thumb across the fat part of the pick with the skinny part pointing towards the string. There's lots of variations of how to hold it, but mostly it's whatever feels comfortable to you. This is just a starting point where most people start. And again, if you're not going to plan to play with a pick, then this is irrelevant. You can also just strum with your fingers with no particular technique required. Just dragging your fingers across the string instinctively is more than enough to get you started. Okay. Stretches. If you find that you have maybe physical limitations already, or that your hands are cramping up, getting sore, here's about 9 different stretches here to help you make sure your hands are ready to play. And it helps also if you find that you're tight after you're done playing to run through some of these stretches. I use these frequently, and I find them very, very helpful. Sorry, this guitar neck's in the way here a little bit. All right, let's just keep rolling on here. Your hands. In the beginning of a lot of guitar books, you're going to see your fretting hand, picking hand labeled. Your fretting hand is almost always going to be labeled with 4 numbers. They're going to correspond to your index, middle, ring, and pinky. Your first, number 1 is the index, number 2 is middle, number 3 is your ring finger, and number 4 is your pinky. Now these are your fretting hands, and these will come in, these will be relevant when we're looking at chord charts, because they'll often use these numbers within the chord chart to tell you which fingers to use. As far as the PIMA, this is mostly, you're going to see this in fingerstyle guitar books. These are the letters that are at the beginning of the Spanish words for thumb, index, middle, and ring finger. But if you see them, just know that P is your thumb, I is your index, M is middle, and A is your ring finger. How to tune the guitar to itself. If your guitar is already in tune, so you've got the low E string already in tune, you can use the 5th fret of that string to tune the string below it. So you could fret the 5th fret of the low E string to tune the next string, or A. Now, almost every guitar, or a lot of guitars now come with a clip-on tuner. There's also an app in every phone that you can quickly download to tune a guitar. So this technique may not be relevant, but if you find yourself without a tuner and you can't tune it by ear, this is a tried and true way to tune your guitar. 5th fret of the low E to tune A, 5th fret of the A to tune D, 5th fret of the D to tune G. Now when you get to tuning the B string, which is the 2nd string from the second highest string, you're going to fret the 4th fret of the G string, and then you're back to the 5th of the B string to tune the high E. Again, if you want to get a copy of this PDF, it's available at my website, meeshproductions.com/PDF. So don't worry about taking any notes. It'll be available there for download, and I'll be updating it too as well. Moving on, how to read tablature. Most people that play guitar, this is something they learn on day 1, because most people play guitar because they want to learn and to play their favorite songs. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is to learn to read tablature. And all tablature is it looks a lot like music notation, except that each line represents a string on the guitar, and the numbers you see represent the fret that you'll play. So you'll see here at the top, we have 7 and 5. So you would put your finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and you would put another finger on the 5th fret of the D string and play them together because they're stacked on top of each other here. Tablature can get more complicated than this. It can include slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs, as well as rhythm notation. Advanced tablature almost looks like music notation because it includes the rhythm values and everything you need, all of the information you need to play it accurately. But a lot of tab is just basic. It doesn't include the rhythm values. It just simply tells you what frets on the guitar to play. Again, I'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation. And if you are interested in a free call, discovery call for guitar lessons with me, check my profile. Also, you can visit my website, meeshproductions.com. Strings and frets. Okay. So the names of the strings from high to low, E, B, G, D, A, E. And as you go up the frets, the notes increase, and they go in alphabetical order. E, F, G, A, B, C. In the key of C, let me go to this next slide, just it's a little more clear. When we're in the key of C, we're only going to play the notes that are naturally occurring. So that'd be like playing on a piano and playing only the white keys. So what you see here would be the white keys on a piano, E, F, G, A, B, C. You'll see that between E and F and B and C, there's no space. And on a piano, you'll notice there's no space on a piano as well. And that's because there's only a half step between them. Each fret is one half step, just like each key on a piano is one half step. So if you know any starting point, you can quickly name any other note above it. So if we're starting on low E, and we know the alphabet, it's E, F, those two are together, then there's going to be a space because it's a whole step to G, whole note to whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E. Now, if we're going to read those notes in between, that's where the other chart comes in handy, is we would call those sharps if we're going up the fretboard, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B, C. This is not necessarily very useful in the beginning. This is just sort of how you can visualize the fretboard. Basically, all the black notes on this would represent the black keys on a piano. All the colored notes on this would represent the white keys. So let's move on from this one. How to read a chord chart. Very similar to tablature because it's got these strings laid out. The high string is on the right, the low string is on the left, and it's going to tell you where to place your fingers and also what fingers to use. And if you see an X or an O above the string, the X means you're not going to strum that string, and the O means that string is going to be strummed and it should ring. Your first 5 open chords. Now this is debatable if you think these are the ones that everyone should learn. And let me actually just adjust the screen here a little bit because I know that is a little tight over there. Okay. So your first 5 open chords, this will play 99% of modern music. So they're very handy chords to learn. And some people argue that even playing chords to start is too much and that you should start with single note melodies like Ode to Joy. But I find that it's more useful to just jump into the chords. It is going to be a challenge, but once you get over that hump, you'll be able to play single note melodies as well. That skill will translate very well. So first 5 open chords, if you've never played guitar before, I recommend learning G, C, D, E minor, and A minor. Now I recommend specifically those chords because it's going to unlock the most amount of songs that you can play that you're likely wanting to learn guitar to play in the first place. The only other one that you might learn a little further down is F. I don't teach F because even the simpler version of F requires you to bar more than one note with one finger, which can be challenging as a beginner. So I would say that is not in my beginner category, but certainly these 5 chords I would put absolutely in the beginner category. And each one of these also has a minor and a major component. So basically once you learn these, it's very easy to learn the minor versions, and then you've doubled your chord vocabulary very quickly. So you could work on learning these chords. There's plenty of songs that you can look up on ultimateguitar.com, Songster, all kinds of websites that have just chord charts with songs, and this will get you through most of them. Okay, your first scale. The very first scale I like to teach is the chromatic scale because it's the easiest one to play. It's just 4 notes in a row played on each string in order, starting with the low E string. So you would start on the first fret of the low E string and play 4 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to move up to the A string. Once you move up to the A string, you're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. move up to the D string, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, until you get up to the high E string. Then you go back down. And when you're beginning, it could be as slow as you need to, but it should be even. So even if it's going to be a slow cadence, you want to get your scales to be rhythmic. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I also would not put much emphasis on how you're picking the guitar at this point. In the very beginning, just memorize the shapes, where your fingers go. Don't worry about if you're doing an upstroke or a downstroke or how you're getting the note to ring. That's a more advanced topic that'll come later. In the beginning, just learn the left-hand shapes and try to get your fingers to go there. If you have to use downstrokes for everything, if that feels more natural in the beginning, you can certainly do that. If you're comfortable with applying alternate picking, that is what you want to ultimately build up to when you're doing the chromatic scale, is to be able to play it up and down. But there's a lot of benefit just to playing all upstrokes as well, all upstrokes or all downstrokes. So there's lots of benefits to practicing all the various ways you can get through a scale. The chromatic scale obviously doesn't really require memorization. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can start it on any fret and follow that pattern. You could start it literally up on the 12th fret. You can't really see me playing it there, but you can start it anywhere. The idea is to play it evenly and to go up the scale and then play it backwards to go back down it. Now, the two other scales I like to teach in the very beginning, obviously the major scale, and this is the traditional fretting of the major scale. So you would start on the low E string at the 8th fret and go 8, 10, 9, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 8, 10, 7, 8. Then we would play it back down. 8, 7, 10, 8, 10, 9, 7, 10, 9, 7, 10, 8, 7, 10, 8. And with all these scales, again, you want to play them evenly. And you want to play them backwards and forwards. And there's lots of variations you can learn once you've got the basics down. But again, this is Introduction to Guitar, and it's giving you a lot of material to work on in your first few months of guitar. And if you have been playing guitar for a while and maybe you just jumped in and started learning songs and tabs and you missed some of the foundational basic stuff, this is a great PDF for you to go download as well at meeshproductions.com/PDF. You can download this presentation. I look forward to any comments or questions you have as well. I'm going to incorporate them into the presentation. I can add or modify slides. If there's a general confusion on anything, I will make sure that it gets corrected on the following iterations. The minor pentatonic scale. A lot of guitar players learn this scale and they just stop there. It's the only scale they know. And for good reason. You can do a lot with it. You just add one more note and you've got the blues scale. Which is the foundation of all rock. You know, basically if you are learning or wanting to learn a solo, learning just this scale is where I have everyone start. And usually I'll just start with like a very basic rhythm, picking some of the chords we learned. Let's say out of those 5 chords, you're able to loop them yourself and make a little progression. I would do that, and I would practice these scales. It makes it more interesting. So, for example, if you were to take like an A minor to a C to a G, and we'll just actually go back to A minor from there. So just 3 chords even. So we got... Take that same scale we just played, the A minor pentatonic. This is how you learn a solo. You just play through it. going to sound pretty boring at first. But the idea is just to find what sounds good. So that is the start of how to solo, and that's why I like to include a couple scales in the beginning so that you can start improvising. I think guitar players think they need to be a lot more advanced before they start experimenting with soloing, but you really don't. Just pick, I think people get overwhelmed with all of the notes that they have to choose from, but the easiest way to learn a solo is pick a chord progression that's in the key you're playing in, something, with A minor, and then just pick part of the scale to work on. For example, instead of doing the whole scale, we could just pick the top 2 strings and find, what can we make out of those 4 notes there that sounds musical, instead of overwhelming ourselves with the entire scale. Let's just say the guitar only had 2 strings, so we only have these 4 notes in this box. What could we make? So that's, you could get even simpler than that. You could literally break that down to how to play a single note to make it sound musical. And that's soloing. Just think about someone singing. They're not going to sing all over the scale. They're going to sing notes that are next to each other. That's going to be the best way to sound musical. Okay, the minor pentatonic scale, every guitar player needs to learn it. There are 5 shapes of it. This is just I'd say the most useful shape. The minor pentatonic, this would be position 5. But there are basically, for every note of the scale, there's a shape you can start on. So you'd have what I would say the first shape is the major position on C. Then you have position 2. Position 3. Position 4, and then position 5, which is the one we just learned. Now, if you guys are interested in learning that and you're more advanced and ready for that, I do have a video on the minor pentatonic scales. Check YT on my video section, and it's under there. Okay, let's move on here. I wanted to try to keep this on track and fairly short today. But again, if I'm taking too long and you just want the notes to what I'm going through, you can go to my website, meeshproductions.com/PDF. And if you are interested in a free guitar discovery call for some free advice, some guidance, direction on where to go in your playing, or whether or not you should get an acoustic or electric, or what kind of gear you think you need or you're looking at, feel free to go to my website, set up a free call with me. And if you'd like to work together for lessons, you can sign up there as well. Okay, that's it. We made it. Here's my final slide here. Let me move this over so my head's not in the way too much. Okay, so here's my practice tips. I threw a lot of information at you in these slides. I would not overwhelm yourself and try to get through it all in a day. Spread this out, pick one chord to work on at a time. And here's some of the tips I'll give you as you're getting through some of these slides, working through some of the techniques here. Practice slow. Guitar is easy if you play slow enough. And I have to tell myself that all the time. When I'm playing a songbook, I'm playing a fingerstyle arrangement, and I'm getting frustrated because I can't get the timing right. It's because I'm playing it too fast. I just slow myself down, even if it's ridiculously slow. Play as slow as you need to play evenly and to have a groove and not feel rushed. If you're playing and you feel rushed, you're playing too fast. Take your time, set the metronome wherever it needs to be so that it's at a pace you feel comfortable with. which is takes us to the second point. Use a metronome or a beat. There's lots of apps out there for metronomes or drum beats that you can put on your phone so that you can practice these things to a beat that's even. And if you don't learn to play slow and even if you get really fast, it's not going to sound good. So make sure you're playing slow, play evenly, use a metronome. You always want to have a beat going. Even when you're soloing, you should have a beat. Whether there's a drum beat going or not, you should have that click going in your head. And that's going to make your phrasing, your soloing, everything that you stack on top of these skills down the road, it's going to make you a exponentially better guitar player. How to become a great guitar player is learning all the basic stuff and getting it down, and then you stack the next thing on top of that. And if you don't build a strong foundation, it will topple over when you try to do things that are too challenging. Which is fine too. There's nothing wrong with learning the guitar and just strumming chords so that you can sing over them, which is the goal of probably at least half the guitar players. Just want to be able to sing a song they wrote or sing their favorite song. So practice slow. If you are getting frustrated, you just can't get that C chord without the G strings getting muted, and no matter what, you're getting flustered. Take a break, take a deep breath, step away for a few minutes, get outside, get some fresh air, go look at the sky. Don't continue to practice if you've gotten yourself into a point of frustration. Just take a break, take a breath, and relax. Also, if you are playing under tension, it's going to actually make getting the chords to ring harder. A lot of guitar players think if they just squeeze their fingers harder on the fretboard, that the notes will ring out. And that's usually not the case. Most of the times what happens is you're going to, one, get your hand to cramp. You're going to hurt your fingertips worse because you're pushing them into the strings harder than necessary. And in doing so, you're going to cause that joint on your first knuckle to collapse. And it's going to cause you to mute strings that you actually want to ring. So my advice when playing chords, if you are having a tough time getting them all to ring, is one note at a time in the chord. Press your finger on that note and try to get it to ring, and just see how much pressure it takes until the note starts to ring. And get used to pressing down with only enough pressure to get the note to ring. If your hand's getting tired, your fingertips are really sore, like you've got these lines in your fingers, you're probably pressing too hard. That's not to say you're not going to have sore fingertips. There's really no way around it your first couple weeks of guitar playing. Even if I take a break for, say I'm sick or I've got an injury and I can't play for a couple weeks, my fingertips will get more sensitive again. It's something that builds up very quickly, that goes away quickly too if you don't play the guitar often enough. But the little pain from the calluses you get on your fingers, that's very temporary. Usually within a week of daily playing, your fingers already have like a nice little protective canvas coating on the tips. Practice every day, at least 10 minutes if you can, but I would take 5 minutes a day over an hour, once a week. It's more productive to do 10 minutes a day, ideally, than waiting to the weekend and doing a super long session. Daily practice is critical, so build it into your routine. And have it be consistent, and set an agenda for your practice. If you have only 10 minutes, don't be like, I'm going to go through this entire thing in 10 minutes. Pick one chord to master in that 10 minutes. Pick 2 chords, 3 chords, work on a strumming pattern. Don't bite off too much for one practice session, or you're not going to push anything forward. Another excellent tip for me anyway was to record myself regularly and watch it back. Because what you hear when you're playing the song versus what you hear when you're listening back to yourself are often very different things. You might feel like your rhythm's solid and you're on the groove, but when you listen back, you might be like, oh, you know what? I'm actually rushing the beat, or you're going to notice things that you didn't see before or hear before, and it's going to help you fast track the improvement of your playing. Same goes with playing in a mirror. This will help you keep your eyes up and go intuitively to the chords without looking at your hand. In the beginning, you're going to be looking at your hand like this, but we want to try to get out of that habit of looking down at the guitar. Instead, start to build a mental image of the guitar in our mind so that we can almost see the fretboard in our mind. And that's going to be helpful when we start to play leads and we want to know where we're going without having to stare at the guitar. It's also going to save your neck. A lot of beginning guitar players cradle their neck and they get a sore neck. So use a mirror. It helps. You can also see more clearly from the angle in the mirror if you're holding your fingers properly, if they're collapsing anywhere. So just a good little tip that I don't hear a lot of people mention. Last tip I'm going to leave you guys with: identify the things in your playing that are the bottlenecks and just focus on those. So what do I mean? I mean, if you are learning the first 5 chords and only one of them seems to give you a problem, you say G is easy, you go to D, no problem, A minor is a breeze, but again, maybe you go to C and you just, something about your you can't get your first finger to stand up and you can't get the G and the open E to ring. Forget about all the other chords that you already can play. Focus just on that C chord and isolate. Which part of the chord am I failing? Which finger is failing? Why? Break it down until you say, okay, it is the index finger failing because it is leaning like this. Focus on just that finger until you can jump into position. Okay, let's add the next finger. Okay, now it's ringing the way I want. Can I transition back and get it to ring that way, or did I lose it? Okay, I lost it. Let me focus on that again. Break down your playing into the most basic, simple thing you can that's slowing you down. Identify what your bottleneck is. And that is how I feel like I improved early on when I started playing. I improved very quickly because that's what I did. As soon as I ran into something I couldn't do, instead of leaning into the thing that I could do well and it sounded good, I always leaned into the thing that I was bad at until that was like the thing I was best at. And then I would pick the next thing. All right, what's the next thing that is slowing my playing down, hindering my progress, and I'd focus on that. So that is my advice for lifelong improvement on guitar, not just in the beginning, wherever you're at, whether you've been playing like me for over 30 years and you want to all of a sudden learn how to double thump or do some technique you thought was out of reach. It's not. All the techniques are within reach, even thumping. And I just picked that technique up maybe 2 years ago at this point. And I thought, oh, that's out of reach. I can't do that, but you can. And I forgot. You just have to apply that mindset of breaking things down into small bits and focusing on them that way. All right, I'm getting a little off track. I'm getting a little chatty, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Again, if you guys found value in this, please follow, subscribe, like, do all the things. If you want to see the full replay, it will be available on YT under the live section. If you are interested in working with me for a free discovery call or signing up for lessons, you can check out my website, meeshproductions.com/lessons. If you want to go download the presentation we just went through, that's at meeshproductions.com/PDF. And that's all I got for now, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will just quickly